Good afternoon or good morning, good evening, whatever time you're watching this video. I am Angie Holloway and I'm the lawyer for doctors. In this video, we're going to talk about why you've been thinking about direct pay practices all wrong. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about first, is a direct pay practice right for you? Second, we're going to talk about some direct pay misconceptions. And lastly, we'll talk about how to protect and grow your direct pay practice with proactive legal strategy. For those of you who have not yet met me, hi, I am Angie. I am the lawyer for doctors, and we help top Georgia medical practices protect their licenses, their practices, and their peace with concierge legal expertise. I've been practicing law for over 8 years. I have litigated all over Georgia in state and federal courts, and now my goal is to help medical practice owners grow and scale practices without burnout and overwhelm, by helping them avoid courts and be compliant without having to uh, rely on DIY. All right, so let's talk about common misconceptions in a direct pay or concierge med practice, right? So obviously direct pay is you're not going to be accepting insurance, right? And so I talked a little bit about that in a prior video. So feel free to go back and check that out if you are wanting to know more about what that is, right? So the top misconceptions we have is number one is that it's only for wealthy individuals. And number two is that insurance is safer or it has no risk, right? And so let's just talk about that, right? So I'm here to tell you the truth that neither one of those misconceptions are true. So, number one, direct pay practices are not only for wealthy individuals. There is a huge increase in the number of people who are seeking out a different type of medical experience. People are tired of going to the doctor and not being heard, tired of their concerns not being addressed, and they want to be able to have care that aligns with what they need, right? They don't want to have to jump through hoops and deal with all of the messiness of insurance and having it to appeal things and pre-authorizations. And people can reasonably afford direct pay services, right? So if you think about what the average deductible is, if you're talking about just primary care, right? For an individual, the average is $2,000. In many of these direct pay primary care practices, the actual cost for the entire year of services is less than the deductible. And so you're in a situation where you actually would benefit and save money by going to a direct pay. But it's not just for primary care. There's also applications to non medical, strictly medical, I should say, treatment. So you think about therapy, right? So there's a lot of therapists who don't accept insurance because of the low payouts. And people are still willing to pay whatever that fee is. On average, that fee is around $150 to $250, depending on the specialty, per session, right? And so people are seeing it as an investment in their well-being and they're willing to pay for those services, right? Number two is that insurance is safe or safer than having a direct pay practice, and that just is not true, right? So as I talked about in the prior video, a lot of issues that you have with insurance is you may not even get paid, right? You are having this like so-called security net of being able to rely on a payment, a very low payment from an insurance provider, but the amount of time it takes for you to get that money compared to what you actually invest, there's a huge disconnect with that. And also, various medical doctors and other doctors are feeling like they're not able to provide the type of care that they intended to provide when they started their own journeys in the healthcare space. All right, so if you want to grow a direct pay practice, there are two very, very important things that you have to consider. The first one is proactive legal strategy, right? And so because you're a direct pay, you don't have that middleman, you don't have that quote unquote safety net. You have to be proactive with your legal strategies. And what that means is you cannot wait till you receive some type of fine, penalty, a grievance from your regulatory agency, or a lawsuit before you start to put things in place. And so what that means is consulting with experienced counsel of your choosing at the outset, right? So you can understand what the risk profiles are and where your biggest opportunities for risks lie, right? So being proactive is really, really important because you don't want to have a situation where some type of catastrophe is going to bankrupt your medical practice. The second kind of line of defense is airtight contracts, right? And so you want to make sure you're not using these free templates from these providers online like LegalZoom, where you download this free or this low cost template and it doesn't even comply with Georgia law, right? So making sure you have a contract that's drafted by someone who's actually paying attention to the case law that's changing, paying attention to regulatory changes, paying attention to the actual compliance mechanism that governs your medical specialty. That is going to be the difference between when you have a dispute with a patient, whether you end up in court or you end up in a mediation, right? Or an opportunity for you to resolve that dispute before there's any type of huge blowback, either financially or reputation wise, to your medical practice. And so, what do we do in order to help you start this direct pay practice, right? We help you create that transition to private practice plan, right? And so, what we'll do is called a Start My Practice session, and we'll talk about what you should spend your legal budget on. I understand that a lot of times when you're starting these practices, you may not have a enormous budget in order to dedicate to legal. And so we'll talk about, okay, where does it make the most sense for you to spend that? And what are some of the things that we can put off until quarter two or quarter three, right? What are the things that are the most important to reduce your largest risk? We'll talk about your commercial lease agreement and whether or not it makes sense for you to sign for a 5-year term if that's what the landlord is asking for, right? We'll talk about what you need to be doing, the first 3 steps that you should take in order to start your practice off on the right foot. Thank you all again so much for watching. Again, my name is Angie Holloway. And if you need assistance with the process to start your own direct pay practice, go ahead and book using the link below in this video. Talk soon. Bye-bye.